As we all know, we humans are living a lot longer than our ancestors ever did. This is a good thing, but with it comes a lot of problems. Aging population, no funds in the public healthcare services. A lot of European countries are struggling with the lack of funds in the public healthcare services. So we have a lot of problems. We have become a lot more dependent on a lot of things, which, given the young demographic of this audience, may come across as a surprise. But if you look at the overall lifespans, especially in our elderly age, we are a lot more dependent on a lot of things. And the problems that we are facing as this longevity. So MedTech is trying to address those issues. Obviously, we cannot really compete with the best machine that is ever produced, which is our body. But MedTech is trying to understand, trying to solve these problems that we are facing as a generation. And therefore, today, I'm going to present this topic. It is an exciting field of engineering, very challenging, fast growing, and ever evolving. But before we jump into the MedTech world, I will just quickly present myself. My name is Kaustubh, but most people find this name difficult to pronounce. So I'm called Kaustubh in most parts of the world. Originally from the land of spirituality, yoga, Ayurveda, and so on. But then I moved to France to study. I did my master's in telecommunications in France. I lived there for 2.5 years, learned a bit of French. And then I moved to UK, which I made my home. I grew my family there. So more than 15 years lived in the UK. And now I live in Toledo for some family reasons. So that's kind of the where I come from. I have nearly 20 years of experience in software and telecommunications industry, out of which 12 years in MedTech. MedTech is fascinating. I learned a lot when I was in UK. I first started in a MedTech role when I was in UK. And since then, I have just been in MedTech. It is a great field, as you would find out hopefully soon. I do have some hobbies, particularly gardening, some DIY projects, and carpentry, the woodworking, are some of the things that I enjoy doing apart from coding. So, what is MedTech exactly? So, MedTech is a field which combines medical diagnosis, treatment, and monitoring. So, in the diagnosis part of the field, we have things like MRI scanners. If you remember from COVID times, we had those PCR machines. So those are the diagnosis part of it. We have treatment part, where we have insulin pumps, or even the robotic surgeries, which are performed with precision. So obviously, the surgeons are humans, and with a bit of help with the robotics, you can achieve something or the kind of precision that is impossible to attain simply with human hands. So that's the treatment part of it. Under monitoring, we have things like continuous heart rate monitoring, continuous glucose monitoring, and so on. So field of MedTech includes devices, apps, algorithms, and something which I haven't put in the slide is the server side. So server side is a big deal because a lot of data crunching, number crunching happens at the back end. We don't really see it on our devices, but it does happen. So I think I should update this slide with that. And the field of MedTech kind of combines healthcare engineering and software. It could be embedded software, server-side programming, or even the front end. Within MedTech, we kind of need to have the entire stack to give the best possible outcome for the patients. So why MedTech matters? First and foremost, like I said in the beginning, we are running short of people. Everything is understaffed, especially in public healthcare systems such as the NHS in the UK. I lived in the UK long enough to understand that NHS is seriously understaffed. They don't have the budget for proper care. And I think this problem we are going to face in some other European territories as well. So MedTech kind of helps with these kind of issues. It improves patient outcomes. I'll give an example here. So I used to work with a company called Sensium. We used to manufacture patches for continuous heart rate, respiration rate, and temperature monitoring. So when we used to have people post-surgery in the hospital, we used to send them home with our patch. And the medical staff from the hospital would see their vitals sitting in the hospital. So that helped free up the beds sooner by about 3 to 4 days in some cases. Because as you know, post-surgery patients, they need monitoring at least 24 hours after the surgery, depending on the complexity of the surgery. But because of the system that we developed, we could send the patients home almost within 6 to 8 hours after surgery, once they were stable. So this frees up more beds in the hospitals. Obviously, that means they can admit more patients. Early diagnosis. Again, I can give another example of the same system. We had our system installed in one of our clients in Brighton. And there was a 50-year-old man having majorly complex health issues. He underwent a surgery, and he was put on with our device. The NHS, because of the lack of staff, they have 6 hours of patient monitoring post-surgery. This person developed sepsis overnight. So overnight, obviously, before any nurse could see that person, he had started to develop symptoms of sepsis. But thanks to our system, we detected the sepsis a lot earlier. We had the alerting mechanism that gave an alert to the senior nurse. The senior nurse intervened, and the person was put onto the recovery paths nearly 4 hours earlier, which meant we kind of saved his life. Not we, but the device. So that was the phase when the company was kind of still struggling to be commercially successful. But when this happened, we were all so proud that, okay, at least we are working towards something useful. So this is why MedTech really matters in today's world. It also gives power to the doctors to make better decisions. As you might know, across Europe, there is a system called early warning score. So early warning score is a combination of different values of different vital signs like heart rate, respiration, glucose, blood sugar level, blah, blah, blah. And then they take into average all the score, and then you are classified as risk, low, high, and critical. So with this algorithm in place, the doctors can make effective decisions about your treatment. And this is all possible because of advances in the MedTech. The other useful thing is the accessibility. So imagine a person living here in Toledo, all their file, the medical history, let's say we have it in electronic medical records. If they travel to, let's say, United States, if something happens there, if we have interoperating medical systems, then somebody in the US can easily find out about this patient and follow the treatment accordingly. Obviously, we are not there yet. The countries haven't have the enough, let's say, contracts within themselves to share this kind of critical patient data. But hopefully soon we will come to that stage where a person can be treated, or at least their history can be retrieved from anywhere in the world. So all this is possible because of the advances in MedTech. I think you get the point. So yeah, so these are the key domains in MedTech industry: software, diagnostics, therapeutic devices such as insulin pumps, wearable. Your Apple Watch or Fitbit is again a MedTech device. Clinical support systems, like I said earlier, a lot of devices are coming up that help doctors to make better decisions. And telemedicine and remote monitoring. So currently I'm working with a company where we have smart medical dispensers. So this is particularly targeted for the elderly audience in Netherlands. They, like most countries in Europe, they are seriously short on elderly care staff. So people who must take their medicines after a certain age for whatever complex health issues they might have, it is essential for them to take those medicines at a particular time. And therefore, their care organizations, in the past, they used to send people at home, like nurses would go and give you medication, like to the patients. But because of our device, now this is all automated. If the patients do not take the medication, we send alerts to their care homes, and the care home staff intervenes. So their necessity on human resources is reduced a lot. So these are some domains we have in MedTech. So let's go further and see some real-world examples. We have, these days it's very common to have heart disease tracking systems. So you wear some sort of wearable device that tracks your heart rate. Even if you don't have any conditions, all the data is uploaded to a particular cloud-based server where the data crunching happens. And even before you have symptoms, the algorithms can predict whether in future you might have a condition or not. Then we have smart inhalers for asthmatic patients, where the sensors are installed within the inhalers, and they can tell whether medication was dispensed or not. And if not, they alert the patient, oh, you need to take your inhaler now. It has been 2 hours since you haven't taken it, etc. We have also wearable devices that can predict arrhythmia. This is a very common use. You might have seen it already in a lot of cases. Also, we have devices that can monitor Parkinson's tremors. So this is really good because Parkinson's patients, they do suffer a lot. But with these devices, we can profile their tremors, see when they are triggered. It kind of gives you a pattern for the clinicians. And then according to that pattern, they can streamline the treatment that they can provide to those particular patients. Now that I have spoken a lot in English, let's watch a video. I think this is in Spanish, so you might enjoy it more.
Los castells son una tradición catalana que nació en Valls. Puede participar todo el mundo, hombres, mujeres, de cualquier edad. Para mí, hacer castells es un orgullo por la tradición que representa y por los valores que transmite. Yo empecé a hacer castells a los 24 años, ahora hace más o menos 10 años que estoy involucrado en la colla. En mayo de 2017 pude hacer mi primer castell de 9 pisos, pero 5 días más tarde estaba ingresado en la UCI de Tarragona por una amigdalitis que se complicó. Tenía un poco de fiebre, dolor de garganta, me encontraba mal, dolor en todo el cuerpo, ya fue deteriorando cada vez más hasta que el jueves, al cabo de 4 días de empezar a encontrarme mal, fui a urgencias en Valls y de allí me mandaron directamente a la UCI de Tarragona.
Josep ingresó con un cuadro de amigdalitis que se complicó con una mediastinitis y desarrolló un shock séptico muy grave.
Nos explicaron que era pues, una de las peores infecciones que podía tener una persona y iba todavía empeorando y lo pusieron ya en coma.
Giuseppe estuvo ingresado con nosotros durante 45 días.
Mentalmente estar en la UCI fue muy duro porque no podía moverme, no podía hablar, estaba allí en la cama sin poder hacer nada.
La gente no sabe que en la UCI se puede desarrollar este tipo de síndrome, el que llamamos síndrome de Pixel, Post-Intensive Care Syndrome en inglés. Este síndrome tiene diferentes manifestaciones que engloban a nivel cognitivo. Son pacientes que tienen dificultades en la memoria y en sus funciones ejecutivas. A nivel físico son pacientes con una debilidad muscular muy marcada. Y a nivel psicológico pueden sufrir de ansiedad, depresión y de síndrome de estrés postraumático. Para mejorar el pronóstico de este síndrome, hace unos años empezamos con el protocolo de movilización precoz. En cuanto Josep se estabilizó, empezamos con el protocolo con el objetivo de mejorar la debilidad muscular que había adquirido y devolverle el grado de autonomía que tenía previamente antes de ingresar a la UCI. Lo más importante es que el paciente recupera la autonomía que había perdido durante el ingreso en la UCI. Las camas que utilizamos, las Smart Bed, nos permiten agilizar nuestro protocolo, monitorizar el movimiento y recuperar al paciente su autonomía, por tanto, su dignidad.
Si queremos mejorar en las UCIs, necesitamos información, necesitamos datos. Uno de los dispositivos que integramos en los últimos años ha sido las camas. Y la información que nos traslada estos datos de las camas pues es muy valiosa.
Y os dejamos tranquilas, ¿vale?
Los datos que integramos actualmente desde las Smart Bed son, por un lado, la inclinación del cabezal de la cama. Es importante tenerla monitorizada porque nos ayuda a prevenir la infección respiratoria en el paciente ventilado. Y, por otro lado, el control del peso de forma continua es importante también a la hora de ajustar la medicación en el paciente crítico.
La dejamos aquí en esta UCI.
Sí, no va a pasar.
Perfecto, ¿de acuerdo? Gracias.
Disponer de los datos, disponer de la información en tiempo real que nos ayude a través del análisis de los datos y creando herramientas de soporte a la decisión, pues va a ayudar al clínico a tomar mejores decisiones. No van a sustituir la decisión del médico. En nuestro trabajo con los datos, pues hasta ahora sobre todo hemos trabajado en análisis retrospectivos, pero el objetivo en el futuro es poder avanzarnos a los problemas, desarrollar modelos predictivos con estos datos para poder avanzarnos a los problemas que puedan pasar en los pacientes y poderlos prevenir.
No me podía imaginar que a los 27 años, por una amigdalitis, pudiese estar tan enfermo y a punto de morir. He tenido mucha suerte. He estado muy bien cuidado y ahora estoy completamente bien. Puedo estar con mi familia, puedo jugar con mis hijas, puedo volver a hacer castells. La verdad es que estoy muy agradecido.
Okay. So this is just one example. There is a plethora of devices that improve patient outcomes, help clinicians, etc. If you are interested to discover more, there is a series called Connecting Dots on BBC. So if you Google BBC Connecting Dots, you will land up on that page where I put the video from. There are a lot of interesting use cases that are kind of showcased there. So if you're interested, just Google it and see it for yourself. Now let's move on to the complex part of MedTech. As you can imagine, we are dealing with patients' health here in MedTech. So out of all the fields of software development, MedTech is the most regulated industry. We have FDA, MDR in the EU. MDR is arguably the toughest regulation we can have in the software development arena. We will see on the next slide why this is so complex. We also have 62304, which is the gold standard for the MedTech software development. In all the MedTech projects that I worked on previously, by default, we kind of fall back on this standard. It is very comprehensive. It requires a lot of things from the development team, also from the QA, product management, etc. But it is very important that your device is compliant with all those standards, simply because otherwise you don't get the approval. So there is also safety classification based on your type of device. The main categories are A, B, and C. A is the lowest risk device or system. These are the systems where even if the software or the device fails, there is no impact on patient's health or they don't cause any injuries. Such software systems can be, an example could be some inventory, patient inventory systems, etc. These are the systems which help the clinicians, but they do not use it to either diagnose or make any decisions on patient's outcome. So those are classified as A, and as you can imagine, the regulations are, there are still a good amount of things that you need to do, even if your device is classified as A, but it is a lot less compared to the other ones. Device classification B is where the software failure can cause reversible damage to the health, like it will not have any serious impact on the health. Those systems can be like monitoring systems, where you continuously monitor some vital signs, heart rate or temperature, whatever. But you don't make any clinical decisions based on these monitoring systems. So most monitoring systems usually fall under category B. And C is where you have irreversible impact on patient's health. Those are the critical systems. They have the most heavy-duty regulations associated with those. Things like ventilators or some AI-based softwares that help the clinicians to diagnose a particular condition. So all those are classified as device C, and they have the most heavy standards, regulatory procedures, and regulatory burden across all the software development fields combined. So in Europe, we have MDR, which is medical device reporting. This is one of the most complex standards there is. It controls absolutely everything for the life cycle of the device, right from the design, any updates, safety, or even taking the devices out of market. There are procedures to follow. MDR controls everything, and therefore it is one of the complex regulations there is. So devices, the other critical aspect is that the devices must show some clinical trials, like they should pass some clinical trials. You cannot just say, oh, my device is measuring heart rate, but without proper clinical trials, you will not get approval. So having clinical trials, real world clinical trials, you cannot have simulations. You need to literally go to your target, let's say, audience and use your system at least for 3 months to get the approval. And then there are independent audits. So we used to have auditors come without notice to our software development teams. They would go through requirements, software design specs. If you have committed code, let's say 2 months ago, why did you make that change, etc. So you need to have everything really documented so that whenever the auditors come, you're ready. Otherwise, they can invoke your CE mark and then you're in trouble. So for most people here who are from the software background, the software lifecycle, they obviously know it by heart. But the difference here in MedTech is that you need to start your design history file at the very beginning. So you need to have your design inputs, which are your requirements, your architectural decision records, everything that you consider that will be useful for your system or in the design phase, you need to make a record. And in all the phases, like design, implementation, testing, etc., you must continuously update your design history file. Your testing and verification also must be recorded, and it is a part of the design history file. Without it, you don't really get any approvals. So although this is very common, the recording or traceability part of it is really complex in the MedTech world. There is also risk management standards that we need to follow. We have corrective and preventive measures that we must be recorded. So for example, if you have a system where you are detecting a fall, so let's say you have a wearable that can be put on somebody's body and you detect if the person has a fall, then you must imagine all sorts of scenarios that can make the device fail. And for that, all those risks, you must have a mitigation in place, recorded, and you must act on those mitigations. And you need to keep record of all this, otherwise, you have approval problems. So verification and control processes are really, really strict. Like I said, everything has to go through a traceability management system. And obviously, the process never ends. Even if you have a commercialized product which is selling and your device is in the market, the continuous monitoring process never really stops, which is different to some other consumer electronics products when once you have your CE mark, you just sell and then you just kind of make the money. But here, you need to continuously monitor all your devices. The next one is pretty simple. Languages, although I have put .NET, Python, etc. as languages, but pretty much everything is here. The embedded C is worth a mention. Most of the embedded devices you see, like your Apple Watch or whatever, is either embedded C or Rust these days. On the server side, we have the GDPR approved cloud services such as AWS or Azure. Data formats. The HL7 and FHIR are the most widely accepted standards across the world. So when I was talking about interoperability across different territories, HL7 and FHIR are the standards where we share the medical data of patients. It needs to be GDPR compliant, otherwise, it's no go. And then again, CI/CD pipelines are pretty much similar to what you would have in any other industry. No much of regulatory burden there, except we obviously have quality checks, but that's pretty much common in any industry, I guess. Cybersecurity and privacy. This is very critical because we are handling patients' data. There are a lot of insurance companies out there which are hungry for patients' data, and they would go to any extent to kind of grab hold of it. So you are really kind of obliged by their standards to have topmost security when handling patients' data. It is also not nice for patients that your system kind of exposes that data to third parties and so on. So there is a lot of regulatory control on patients' data, which, as you can imagine, is important. Also, updates and patching must go through a regulated process. You cannot just say, okay, I'm releasing an Android version tomorrow. You cannot do that. You need to go first through the underlying authority. It could be FDA or FDR, and you need to justify why you need to provide an update. Also, justifying why you need to provide an update has a ripple effect, because you kind of say, oh, I have a problem with my system. So why you didn't discover that problem before? So you need to justify all that. Otherwise, you don't get approval even for updates. But yes, you have to go through that painful process so that we ensure patient safety. And a little bit about future of MedTech. There are a lot of things that are going on. Particularly interesting is the interoperable health ecosystems. So you're not tied to a particular GP surgery or a particular territory. As population, we are moving a lot. People are changing their homes all the time. They are moving from one place to another. So with the interoperable systems, you have that covered. You have then digital twin organs. You must have seen some organs which replicate, let's say, kidney or some other parts. These are being designed. We have robotic surgery, which is very, very useful. With the humans performing surgeries, there is always the drawback of the person being tired, person being emotionally attached or whatever. But with the robotic surgeries, once they are into mainstream, this will be a lot easier. So these are some, and I'm not saying a lot of, as in far away in the future, but this is kind of happening now, although I have put it under future of MedTech, but this is just the beginning. We are moving towards it as I speak. And with that, I conclude my little presentation on MedTech. I hope you understood at least some of it. Next time I will try and speak in Spanish, but today, please forgive me. And yeah, big thank you to you for bearing with me in English. And also big thank you to all the organizers of GDG events. It helps us connect with the like-minded people. So yeah, thanks a lot.
Thanks for the talk. Just for curiosity, I wonder what is the approximate timeline between you have a prototype of the device, the software, and it get approved by all the organs public for the public usage?
Yeah, at least 1 year.
At least 1 year.
At least, because you need to go through clinical trials.
And in terms of budget, what is more expensive to get a prototype, develop a prototype, invent, or get approval? This is not, I think...
It kind of depends on what device you have. If you have a device which is classified as class B or C, the approvals are more expensive. But if your device is, let's say, just monitoring or analyzing without making any clinical decisions, then maybe the prototyping is cheaper. But yeah, approvals take a lot of time and money.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
But at least 1 year because of the clinical trials.
Thank you. Teníamos otra pregunta por aquí atrás.
Kaustubh, thank you so much. I'm very new in this MedTech thing. It's a good idea. We have the opportunity to got you here to talk with us about this. I have a question about security, because of what you said before. This is very sensible and private data. I understand there's protocols, there's compliance, there's rules to have everything with ciphers, etc. in the database. But I have a question about remote monitoring. Because the data needs to travel through somewhere. I'm sure that's a critical thing about those devices we have everywhere. Can they be exploited easily? I don't know. Can you share other thoughts about what kind of risk and issues can we see about that?
Yeah, so a lot of devices who have CE marked or have gone through MDR processes, they usually comply with security standards. So you must have end-to-end encryption. Let's say you have a wearable device that transmits data to some cloud server. So from the device through some sort of router all the way to the server, entire communication chain must be encrypted. There are also norms where they say you must have TLS 2.0, for example. So if you are MDR compliant, your security is usually high. But that doesn't mean it cannot be exploited. The more security we enforce, the hackers get even more smart, and they kind of, they are hungry to crack open your communication chain. Somebody was earlier talking about pen tests. So in most of the companies I worked, we do pen tests on a periodic basis. The usual standard is about 3 months, unless you have an update. So every update must go through a pen test. And it is very critical for these healthcare devices, right from the device all the way to the server to your data store. Everything must be encrypted and must go through pen tests and so on.
Do the security measures change between the three classifications you showed us? A, B, C, do they have
Yes.
different?
Yes, for example, those who are classified as A, the periodic pen test requirement is not there. Those who are classified as B or C, you must have pen test as a part of your delivery.
Mm-hmm.
So there are some changes that change according to the device classification.
Okay, thank you. Another question is about artificial intelligence and devices. How do you see, what's your prediction, because you are the expert here in MedTech, about injecting or putting or installing the small models perhaps in these devices we are going to wear in the near future?
The way I see it is a two-sided sword. You have, on one hand, a lot of advantage using AI into your devices. But then if that massively powerful tool goes into hands of some not so morally correct people, then you might end up having issues. Like, I don't know whether you have seen Black Mirror episode where they put a chip in somebody's head and they
the memory chip.
Yes.
Okay.
And then the person is kind of, they save their lives, but because of that chip, that person starts to, eventually that person starts to say some advertisements. So they even for first few months, they are shown as okay. And then they start, the AI kind of makes that person to say some random advertisements. So this is some sort of imaginary, series, but this explains really beautifully how AI is like a two-sided sword. Whenever you have power, obviously you have some side effects, like atomic bombs. So yeah, I guess the regulatory requirements, they are not coping up with the advancements in the AI. AI is going so fast, whereas the regulatory compliance is kind of struggling to cope with this. But hopefully in future, or rather near future, we will have some control from the regulatory side where we can make sure that the AI or the people using AI in devices don't make bad use of the AI.
Thank you so much.
But yeah, do watch that episode. It will answer your question.